I would tell my parents that you realize you've got at the dinner table and you should be grateful that you have my intellect and presence. For 100 days, I forced myself to ask girls out in the streets of New York. So 10 girls a day out for 100 days. So 1,000 girls. The point was actually to be rejected. I give everything away to charity. I go to nothing. Complete first principles. If I have infinite time and nothing to do, where do I want to be today? What do I want to be doing? Who do I want to be seeing?
These are just some of the things you are about to hear from one of the most successful angel investors on the planet. Fabrice Grinda has invested in over 1,000 companies, over 300 successful exits. He treats his entire life like a video game. Most people spend their whole lives chasing success and still feel empty. Fabrice figured out why. In this interview, Fabrice reveals how he went from being a virgin at 27 with zero social skills to working 100-hour weeks that feel like play to now living his absolute dream life split between 3 countries. He shares his unconventional approach to decision-making, his radical philosophy on money and success, and the spiritual awakening that changed everything. This is an intense deep dive on how the ultra successful actually think. If you've ever wondered what you're missing, this is it. Here is Fabrice.
I didn't start with necessarily with this perspective. Let's be completely honest here. I had a sense growing up of a manifest destiny, right? Like I got my first computer in 1984. I was 10. It was lava first click. And I knew computers and I were meant to be together forever. And I always had a very assured self of myself. And I had the ambition to make a ripple in the fabric of the universe. I don't know where that ambition came from. I was 5. I had it. I was going to be the smartest, the best, the most successful, like no matter what. And that's all that mattered to me. And in fact, I thought everyone around me, including my parents, were idiots. I'm like, you're not smart enough to be graced by my presence. Let me go study alone. I was Sheldon Cooper. So in my teen years, preteen years, and early college years or early 20s, I was definitely Sheldon Cooper, where everything was on the altar of intellect and ambition, and the two were highly related to me. It was obvious to me, and I thought for a while, like, should I be in the political realm? But I realized that my allegiance is to humanity, not any single nation state. And the best way to actually impact humanity writ large is through technology and harnessing the deflationary power of technology. And so in my, 10, 11, 12, 13, my role models, of course, that was the 80s, right? Like were Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. And I was winning all the Olympiads. I was getting all the top grades in France. And when I went to interview at like Lena, and they asked me, what do you want to do when you grow up? I'm like, I want to be a tech founder, like my role models, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. And so, of course, they said, what? You would betray the ideals of the French Socialist Revolution. And so it was obvious I needed to leave France and come and live the American dream in the US. So at 17, I left France and Nice, where I was from, which is actually a very, it's an amazing place to grow up, but it's a sleepy tourist summer town. Yeah. And if you have a modicum of ambition, you don't belong there. At least you belong in Paris, but frankly, I needed to live the American dream. So I left for the US, went to Princeton, finished the highest GPA in my class. There's like straight A+ in my major. And because I already knew how to program, I already knew I wanted to be in tech, and I decided to study economics and math because math is beautiful and economics explain the way the world works. But here's what's interesting. None of these things, even though I was ambitious, I did because, look, at Princeton, I studied everything. Russian literature, Roman Empire, Mandarin, electrical engineering, molecular biology. I was probably the only non-pre-med in molecular biology. But I did these things, and this is where maybe it relates to what we're about to talk about, because I liked them, like intellectual curiosity. I did it for fun, right? So here's the interesting thing. Most of these things that I did, I was very ambitious, but none of them I deemed to be work. I deemed all of them to be fun. I was programming, I built, even in college, I was like, I had 4 jobs. I built a computer company, export a computer company for the US and Europe. Like, it was all fun, right? And I think that's the fundamental difference. Like, if a student in college feels like their homework is homework and they have to take I have to prepare the finals, etc., they're going to maybe cram the night before. They might get a good grade or bad grade, and then they'll forget it immediately afterwards. If you do it because you think it's interesting and fun, like I would, like Princeton has more Nobel Prize winners than all of France. And these people, they have their their 2 minutes of fame when they get their Nobel Prize, and then no one remembers them. The average academic paper is read by 7 people. These people have office hours, and no one goes there, right? Students don't go to office hours, et cetera. And I have the greatest minds in the world at my disposal. I can just go hang out with them and chit chat about their latest papers and their research. And these people are people are happy to talk about what they're. If you take an interest in people, if you take an interest in what they're doing, they are more than happy to talk to you. And so that approach of pursuing my curiosity, pursuing my passion, I always had. And all these things always look to me like play. In fact, this simulation matrix reality we live in, actually to me looked like a video game. It looked like we all have these different character attributes that were preset ahead of our birth that we can actually then tweak through training. It's like a role-playing game. And you can through iteration get better at some, and you can max out some. You can't max out others based on your preset character defaults and characteristics. But by pursuing that a combination of curiosity and interest has kind of always led me right. That said, I did things that I felt were necessary that in hindsight probably wouldn't have. So upon graduating college, I was 21. I feared that by virtue of being 21 in 96, in the early bubble days, people wouldn't take me seriously because I'm shy and I'm introverted. Even though I built a little company that paid for college, and I exported computer equipment from the US to Europe, it wasn't a real company. I didn't have employees. If I started a company, I would fail. If I joined one, I wouldn't be taken seriously. So I went to McKinsey for a few years, kind of as a finishing school, business school, except they pay you. Now, in hindsight, I think I shouldn't have done that. I should have directly gone to Silicon Valley, joined a startup, build a startup. Even if I failed, failing is a lesson in itself. So there's one area where I probably went a little bit astray, but not very astray. And then that next possible mistake is I want to build a startup, but I'm like, I don't have any brilliant ideas. Why don't I take a US idea, bring it to Europe? Now, in 98, it was too early to bring companies to Europe. It would have been way better to go to Silicon Valley and go build something or join something. I think it would have made a lot more sense, but it's okay. Didn't find the path, and it was a very interesting formative experience. I raised 63 million in venture money, grew it from 0 to 100 million in sales. I hired 150 employees, but I made a lot of mistakes. Many first-time founder mistakes is first of all, I overworked. I overcompensated lack of experience by working. I was working over 100 hours a week, 7 days a week. I would go to bed at 1, wake up at 5, every day, 7 days a week. But the funny thing is, even then, it was play. I didn't deem it to be work. I thought it was fun. And I think that's the difference between two people. If one person is quote unquote grinding so imagine two people are doing the exact same thing, but one of them is doing it because they feel they need to prove themselves to their mother, their parents, themselves, society, humanity, their teachers, whatever chip on the shoulder they have. At some point they burn out. And the other person doing the exact same thing, working the same 100 hours a week, but they're loving every single minute of it because it's play. They can go on forever. And that person wins every time.
It would probably kind of show physically as well.
Yeah.
They would look like the person who felt like it was play would look healthy and happy. And the person who didn't would develop.
I even though I was I had no work-life balance. I had no friend, no girlfriend. Look, I didn't even have a girlfriend until I was 27. It didn't even occur to me to look for one. It was manifest destiny, world domination. Girls are distractions. They're fun, but they're distractions. I need to focus on the things that I think are important to me. And at that time, that was really important to me. Now, of course, when the bubble blew up and I lost everything, I was like, okay, perhaps the end all be all is not just being very high IQ and successful. And in fact, I think I realized that the reason I valued, I think when you're younger, you're insecure about the things you're not good at, right? So I was very confident in my intellect. I was very confident about being a smart, successful tech founder. I was very insecure, but because I was younger than everyone else at school, because my interests did not, I had no interest in like whatever, soccer, girls, clubbing, whatever other people were interested in music, I like zero social connections. Like I had no friends in college. Like, I just was a crazy guy, had all the A pluses and took every class in the multiverse. But not so, what's interesting is when that company failed and I went from zero to hero, like cover of every magazine, whatever, cover of like the French Forbes, 8 o'clock news, you name it, to losing it all. It was interesting because then I went through a moment of reflection. I sent to myself actually a very long email. What should I do now? I was at the right time at the right place. I missed my chance. I've had one chance, one opportunity. I didn't take it. And I thought long and hard. Do I go back to McKinsey? Do I go to business school? I mean, it was a bit ridiculous because my company was like a case study at business school, right? Like, do I go to private equity? And then I'm like, you know what? I didn't do any of this for the money to begin with. I like building something out of nothing. I like harnessing the inflationary power of tech to like make things cheaper and better for other people. Even though tech is going to be this niche small thing, it's not going to be big, and there's no money in it. You know what? I'm going to stay a tech founder because that's actually what I care about. This is my form of play, even though there's no money in it. So obviously this is 2001. Bubble had burst, venture is dead, tech is dead, and I'm like, okay. And actually, I'll share with you that email that I sent to me myself at the time.
Yeah, I would love that. That's so interesting. So because the bubble had burst, you had the actual thought process of, oh, the bubble's burst, therefore there's no money in this, but I'm going to play in it anyway because I really like it.
Yeah. That's actually,
cool.
You can. And my analysis, by the way, is do not try to write yourself these emails to be thoughtful and methodical, but don't reach a conclusion while doing it. By the way, I've done that email exercise multiple times. Let me send you the first time.
One question on your McKinsey when you went after college, was that a mistake because you were doing something that you felt like you should be doing?
Yeah, so no. The funny thing is, I liked it. I actually liked the people there for the first time. The McKinsey at the time was the place where the smartest people were, and so I actually made friends for the first time, and I learned oral and written communication skills and public speaking skills, which were useful. The job I thought was just reasonably uninteresting. No, I think it was a mistake because I'd maybe lose 2 years of like the tech bubble that I should have been in instead. And I think these same skills, oral and written communication skills and public speaking skills, you can learn on the job just by executing, right? Like, so when I first gave my speech, my first presentation, or like an audience 500 people, I was like scared shitless. By the time I've done it 50 times, like easy. Yeah, same thing. You put me on the other side of a camera and like, it could be millions of people on the other side. It doesn't matter. Like I've done this so many times, it doesn't faze me. I just, especially since I know that what resonates is being your true authentic self. I mean, the one thing I think that sets me apart early on is many people have these fundamental insecurities like that. They have this little chip in their shoulder, someone like their little devil that tells them they're not good enough, they're not working hard enough, they're not whatever. I've never had that problem. I've always had the opposite problem, if anything. Like you can do anything, nothing can stop you. Whatever you put your mind to, you will accomplish. So, so that was always there. And so I realized, so McKinsey was not a huge mistake, by the way. I think there are no mistakes, right? McKinsey versus joining startup or building startup, I think all three would have been great, or would have turned out to be great. And it's probably a marginally better outcome, I think, if I go and directly to Silicon Valley instead of A, going to McKinsey and B, going to France, but whatever. I mean, the thing is, I almost sold my company for 300 million and made 120 million in 25. Instead, I went bankrupt. And it's probably one of the best things that happened to me because I was an arrogant, narcissistic, self-involved prick, condescending, judgmental, and actually, and didn't also understand the value of money. Like I thought it was easy to make, and so I didn't really value it. And so failing so publicly, it was the first time I'd ever failed at anything. Like anything I'd ever set my mind to, I succeeded at, was actually useful in terms of like learning perspective. And also it taught me to stop being judgmental. Well, not that. I think it's maybe going on dates started telling me to be like forcing myself to go on dates. Started to realize people were built differently, and there was not just one value judgment metric. Like for me, it was all IQ and ambition. If you didn't have that, you were not interesting. And then I realized, and
Mm-hmm.
which is why I wasn't relating to my parents particularly well or other people. But eventually, when I realized, you know what? We're all built differently. All have our own perspectives. We all have our lives, and there's no judgment to be had. Like we are who we are. And when I also realized that judgment partly came from insecurity because I was so good at being smart and ambitious, and I was not at all good at like being social, having friends, and like being a normal human being, having
Mm-hmm.
hobbies or whatever. And so when I realized that, okay, let's drop the insecurity and then like accept people for who they are, it's improved my relationship with others and improve my relationship with my parents and family like dramatically. So I went from like a condescending, arrogant, narcissistic prick to having failed and like realizing people are just built differently and everyone has their own merits to being actually accepting of all. But that's a transition that took many years, right? Like probably started when I was
Yeah.
25, 26, and like after the public failure, and then continued until my early 30s by, when I started dating, when I started realizing that there are other things to life than, IQ and intellectual
Yeah.
curiosity. And lo and
So is
behold,
there imagine. So
imagine that.
is there like a specific, if you had to pinpoint one like year when Fabrice 2.0 was created?
It was it was a small path, right? It's like, okay, going to McKinsey and when I was 21, so in 1996, and realizing, oh, there are a lot of other smart, interesting people out there. They probably were in that fact principle, I just didn't know where to meet them. And so starting to interact and having friends a bit for the first time. Then I started my startup, 98, 99, 2000, and I realized, oh, I thought I was this shy, introverted guy, but actually turns out being eloquent, passionate comes naturally to me. Maybe my perceived introversion was driven actually by the fact that I was in a setting where I didn't have my peers and I couldn't express my passion. Put
Yeah.
me on
Yeah.
stage, and oh my God, like I thought I'm actually ENTJ, and I thought I was whatever, not
Yes, me too.
ENTJ. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
me too.
I
That's the
didn't
best
think that,
one.
and then you put me on stage. I'm like, oh my God, this comes naturally. So when my
Yeah.
startup
Yeah.
failed, so now we're in 2001. My startup fails, and I'm like, huh, I'm this confident, extroverted, curious individual intellectually and in my business, and I happen to be this shy, introverted person in my personal life. Maybe that's an artifact of not having, actually having friends and not having been in social situations where I meet the right people, and frankly, never having dated. Why don't I start? Why don't I get a girlfriend? So obviously, if you've never had even asked a girl on a date in your life, like the concept of having a girlfriend is hard. So for 100 days, I forced myself to ask girls out in the streets of New York. So 10 girls a day out for 100 days. So 1,000 girls. The point was actually to be rejected, right? The point was not to get a date. The
Yeah.
point
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
get over fear of rejection. Now, the benefit is
Okay.
I'd asked so many VCs for money and they'd all say no, that
Yeah.
in a way,
Yeah.
you get used to rejection. Um, so, yeah.
How did that go?
Well, the first time it's like, what do you mean? Like, running away in the other
Yeah.
direction, because obviously it's also awkward. You're asking a random hot girl in the street in New York. Um, but because of the law of large numbers, it went pretty well. I got 45 dates, which is a date every other night. Now, the problem, of course, is I'd never been in a date in my life, and my expectation of what a date was and what a date really was were fundamentally different. I thought a date was a meeting of the minds, or two people talk about where they stand on the Locke versus Hobbes debate, or Rousseau versus Voltaire. Um, Turns out that the random hot girl that you pick up in the street of New York is a model slash actress, but really bartender, aspiring
Yeah.
model,
Okay.
who is interested in whatever fashion, latest pop news, maybe some sports, has no interest, idea, or whatever about like any of the things I was talking about, and I had no interest. Like, so our worlds did not overlap at all. And so I went to 45 dates. Quickly realized, and I know money, so very quickly realized it should be drinks, not dinner, and also very quickly realized that this is not going to be successful. One of the girls was so hot, she asked me the second date. I said yes, and then after the second date, she's like, "Hey, do you want to come over?" I'm like, "No, 27. I've never had a girlfriend to this date." you, with whom I have zero intellectual chemistry, is not going to be my first girlfriend. So,
Yeah.
but it was
Right.
nonetheless interesting because then I got over fear of rejection. It's like, okay, let's go and find the right girls, not the random hot girl. And then ultimately found love multiple times. So that was good. So then let's go in the next thing. The next startup is interesting because it was a means to an end. And it's interesting because I kind of like I didn't grind through it. I actually liked I didn't like the product I was building. I didn't like the product I was selling. I didn't like the category I was in. I did not like the partners I was working with. I did not I didn't like anything with the startup I was building. But
Which one? Which one
it
was
was
this?
zingy. I was selling ringtones,
Yeah.
and I brought ringtones to the US. But here's the
Yep.
thing.
Okay.
In a world with no constraints, go and build what you want to build. Go and follow your passion. The problem is in 2001, there were real constraints. There was no capital available. And my decision, what the passion was, be a tech founder. That was the passion, and be in the US. And ideally be in New York because I was madly in love with a girl. It didn't work out. But so there were a bunch of reasons I needed to be in New York. I needed to be in the US, and I wanted to be a tech founder. The problem was in 2001, there was no VC money available. The tech was dead. It was going to be a small niche business. So I'm like, okay, sadly, instead of building the type of ideas I would want to build, I'm going to build an idea that I think I can make profitable with very limited capital. And that's why I built a ringtone business. Even though I never listened to music before, I thought the music companies were idiots, and they were. They didn't understand I was trying to give them and make them money. They didn't realize they basically were saying no to my advances, even though I was going to ended up making hundreds of millions for them because they're dumb. The phone companies didn't understand the opportunity. So I didn't like the product I was selling. I didn't think it was doing a very good value to humanity and society. Providing a little bit of street cred to teenagers is okay, but it's not particularly life affirming. But that said, I actually liked the process of building the company and hiring the team and scaling it and doing the business deals, et cetera, despite the fact that I didn't actually like the category. And so you also need to be aware of the constraints you live in, right? I had no VC money, no capital, et cetera. And so I built that company the old fashioned way on profits. But we almost died so many times. We missed payroll 27 times, including 4 months in a row. It took me 2.5 years to get the first deal, the first operator, but then they were lemmings. And so the company revenues went from 1 to 5 to 50 to 200, became profitable. And then I sold it. And this time I sold it too early because better too early than too late. And for cash, because the last company's stock fell 99.98%. And at 29, I made $43 million. And so then so the means to an end, I paid off. And then I'm like, okay, now I have capital to go and build the things I really want to be building. And that's when I went back to building marketplaces and building OLX. OLX is Craigslist for the rest of the world, except a mobile first, female friendly, because women are the primary decision maker in every household, right? Like women decide which house you live in, which babysitter you hire, which car you buy, which couch you buy. I mean, so creating a site like Craigslist was the least female friendly, full of scam, prostitution, and crap that you imagine is anathema to what you should be building. And I'm like, look, in these emerging markets in India and Pakistan and Brazil, there's no payment systems, there's no trust, there's no shipping. Can I build a site that is integral to the fabric of society to make the world a better place there? And it took a long time, but it worked. And this time, VC backed, building something that I really cared about building. And I grew that to 350 million users a month. I mean, 5% of the world's population uses it every month. Tens of millions of people make a living off the site. And in these countries, we are part of the fabric of society. We had thousands, and every day we get thousands of letters of users telling us what a difference we make in their life and what a positive influence we are in the world. And so then my ambition was really aligned with my values. But I would
that's
say
what you said you had at 5. So at 5, you had an ambition of a ripple effect. And then what you said about that business and being part of the fabric of society and getting all those messages, were you very aware at the time that was oh, this is what I'm here to do?
Oh yeah, that's why I started the business to begin with. That was I knew from the beginning, when I studied economics, because to me it explains the way the world works. And I like markets because they bring efficiencies to things that are opaque and fragmented, and they make things, and by virtue of making things cheaper, they make things better for people. They improve people's purchasing power. And so I knew from the get go I wanted to build marketplaces, and I wanted to me the force of the internet is cheaper, better, faster, and I wanted to bring that to hundreds of millions, if not billions, of people. And so I knew this was the company I was meant to be building. And it took a while, but yeah, I loved it. Aligned values, aligned mission. But funnily enough, once I had succeeded, I had the same thing happen again, where I felt I was no longer living my life's mission. So imagine I'm in 2012. I've won the war. I have a huge company, 11,000 employees, 30 countries. We're getting all these letters from users every day. The external recognition is strong, right? Like in every one of these countries, we're a top site. So massive external validation. But I did not feel happy anymore. I did not feel happy anymore because the job changed. In the early days, I'm writing user stories. I'm writing product specs, and I feel like I'm having a direct impact on like the outcome of the site. And once you're 11,000 employees and you're part of a publicly traded company, your job becomes creating an annual budget or a quarterly budget, an updated quarterly budget, making sure you hit the numbers. Like, I don't know, bullshit. And I was not happy on a day-to-day basis. And so I decided to go back to first principles. What if the unthinkable? I quit the company I started, that is one where I'm getting all the pay, all the recognition, etc., because it is no longer true to what I want to be doing, and I know it because I'm not loving the day-to-day, right? And to me, what's important is loving the day-to-day. So I wrote myself a very long email laying out all the crazy shit I could be doing instead. So this is it. I'm putting it here. I wrote this in the summer of 2012. I was still CEO of OLX.
So when you write these, are you writing to your current self?
I write to my current self. Well, actually, I'll tell you what I write. I lay out where I am in life, what I'm happy with, what I'm not happy with, what could be better, what I think the options are with no limitations. I mean, I wrote like run part of Cuba, become a public intellectual. I mean, I went like broad. And I write to myself, and instead of imagining what the ideal day in any of these things could be, like the day where you succeed and you're celebrated, what does the average day look like? And what are the pros and cons of that? What is it I like? What is it I don't like? And what I typically do is I then send that email to people who know me, friends, advisors, and I tell them, what would you do if it was you? And what would it do if you were me? Because obviously that's a different perspective. Knowing what you know of me, what do you think I should do? And if it was you, what would you do? Because most people, of course, if they're CEO of a very successful large company, amazing pay, amazing recognition, they stay there. And my conclusion was absolutely not. You start from scratch. In fact, I went to full first principles where I decided, you know what? I am not liking the way we in life have a default mode. You have an apartment, you go there. You have a city you live in, you go there. You have a group of friends that are around you, you see them. How about I give everything away to charity? I go to nothing. Complete first principles. If I have infinite time and nothing to do, where do I want to be today? What do I want to be doing? Who do I want to be seeing? And so that's the exercise I went through after I decided to leave OLX. So let me put a few more blog posts here. And so I went to first principles and I tried it. And then I iterated. Like I didn't know what the answer was going to be. And so I went couch surfing on friends' couches, for which was a total disaster because my vision of what it would be, which is like, we have infinite time to remake the world and like talk like we were in college and like play tennis, etc. The thing is, I was single, I had infinite energy, infinite time, and of course they're married, they have kids, and all. Like I was in imposition, not a value added distraction. So it didn't work.
Yeah, and then you have to sleep on a couch as well.
Yes. And I tried many things. I Airbnb'd for many years. I lived in hotels. I tried being at a place for 1 week, then moving every week. But then I was tiring. I tried like 2 months, but that was too long. So I iterated until I got to where I am today. But it took a lot of iteration. And I think just people are not putting enough they're not throwing enough spaghetti in the wall. So
Yeah.
two things: you need to throw spaghetti on the wall,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to then read the tea leaves. Something. So I tried for 7 years to build something a big a compound in Dominican Republic, and for 7 years the universe kept saying no, 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 no. In fact, I wrote a blog post on the universe kicking me in the teeth. That's my last blog post about the Dominican Republic. Actually, it's called the universe is whispering to you. That's the last one I'm putting here.
Yes.
And I did not take no for an answer. And it
this was last week. This
is last week. Yes.
Okay. No.
And I explained why I chose the Dominican Republic and like all the shit that went wrong and wrong and wrong and wrong. And then, but I read these signs.
Yeah.
Now I've gotten better at reading the signs since I took my spiritual path and bent, which happened kind of randomly, right? Like since I did, I guess, 3 deep psychedelic journeys, one on ayahuasca, 2 on one LSD, and one on psilocybin. And so I've become better at reading these signs than I was before. I was ignoring them. Now, I always thought life was a game. In fact, like, you can read this, The Meaning of Life. This one is very long. But literally, I explained that, the meaning of life is life itself. It's to play the game of life and to be your true authentic self. And I think most people don't realize that. They think things are serious when it's all a game and it's all play. But here's where I think why a lot of people in spirituality fail, and a lot of people in spirituality don't make money. I think is letting things flow and following the flow is very different from sitting on the couch and waiting for things to happen to you and for things to happen. So going with the flow of life in the river is not do nothing. It is do things and then see the response you get from the universe and to see if they're aligned with what you should be doing or not. So you still need to be active. In fact, I think the people that are like monks, etc., or people that think they need to be meditating all day long, they actually miss the point of what this simulation is all about. Actually, you need to be a participant in it. You're not supposed to be transcending or disengaging. Zen would call that clinging to emptiness. I think Watts would say that they misunderstood the punchline. The moment you reject the game, you're back in the illusion. You think that there is better, pure state somewhere else, but actually that's not true. This is the game. This is the game is playing this life, and this is what life is all about. And it is a game. That's why you should have fun with it. Which is why, like, my entire life, I've just done things that make me happy, even when they make no sense whatsoever. Like leaving a company when you're at the top, giving all your possessions to charity, like starting a tech startup in 2001 when the tech is dead and everyone's telling me go to business school or private equity or whatever, McKinsey, like do the things that resonate. Like I lead a very non-traditional life, right? Like I'm distributed between 3.5 geographies. I have a non-traditional relationship, like everything's, but it's true to me. It's not, and you should not lead your life because you're worried about the judgment of others. You should not lead your life because you should not do things because you think that the things you should be doing. You should just do what's right for you and what resonates truly. And so how it comes to startups, because is you build a startup, you try things, and you have to try a lot of things. You need to throw the spaghetti, but then to read the science. In a startup, the worst thing is to fail slowly. You want to fail fast. And so you want to try hard, and if it doesn't work, move on to something else. And look, if you are trying something in a startup and your metrics are like 10x away from where you need to be, probably you're not going to get there. Now, if your metrics are 50% away from where you need to be, probably through enough iteration, you're going to find a way to get there. But like grit and tenacity is so you need to try hard. If you don't try hard, it doesn't mean anything. But you also need to read the signs. And so you try hard, and then you realize whether it's going to work or not going to work based on the data and the signals that you're getting.
I once heard the phrase, the universe rewards big risk takers.
Yes.
Which I guess is similar to throwing spaghetti at the wall, but it's like throwing big spaghetti at the wall.
It's just as much work to build a small startup than a big startup. It's just as much work to open a restaurant than to build a billionaire company. So might as well go build a billionaire company. Like go big or go home. But again, it needs to be a reflection. There's no judgment in that, actually. It's a reflection of your personality. Do what is right for you. I think some people are very happy running a mom and pop shop. Some people are very happy running a restaurant. Like it depends what you're looking for. Like maybe you want the local connection to your community. Maybe it's a place where you meet. You love chit-chatting with your customers. Like optimize for what's right for you. And I don't think actually the universe rewards big risk takers more than it rewards small risk takers. I think the universe
Okay.
rewards people that do things that are right for them, that are in line with their energy, with their passion, with their ambition, with their joy. Like the universe rewards play and joy. Be joyful in everything you do. Be playful, and that play is rewarding. First of all, it's rewarded in of it itself, and I think you will be rewarded. Like the people that force things, it's hard to make it sustainable.
Have you always had this kind of mentality around the people in your life? So if you think if something doesn't work, don't do it anymore, do something else, read the signs, play the game, take the risks, follow joy. Do you apply that same thing to the actual people you're spending time with and the people you're hanging out with?
Yes. Well, first of all, I don't think there's any risk in life for people like me because, okay, my first startup went bankrupt. So what? I think I can find a job at McKinsey, Goldman, whatever in a minute. Like, ooh, instead of, building the startup, which is fun, I have to do like, horrible work, but I can still make a shit ton of money if I want to, right? Like, oh, all my friends are successful. I'm sure they could hire me. I could like I could live on my parents' couch. Like, I don't, there's no risk. What's the downside? Like, I go live with my parents for a couple of years. Eh,
Mm-hmm,
it's like not the
mm-hmm,
end of the world,
mm-hmm.
right? Like people have these overblown sense of like the risk they're taking. Like I've been bankrupt, so what? You have no money in the bank account. Like it's not that hard to make enough money to make it to eat food, and enough people
Yeah,
can help you or whatever. Like I don't know. Like okay, you're not
yeah,
going to St. George, but if you want to go to an all-you-can-eat buffet for $5, that exists, So
yeah.
I think people overestimate the level of risk that there is. If you are confident in your abilities and your intellect, and there is no risk. So number one. Number two, yes, I think the people you surround yourselves by matter, and like so, I try to surround myself by people that have a pretty similar mentality, like people that I've noticed that people that keep complaining that horrible things happen to them just basically put themselves in situations where horrible things happen to them, right? Like they're looking for
Yeah.
confirmation. It's confirmation bias of their perspective that the universe is out to get them. I think the universe is out to reward me, and so the universe rewards me. So I try to surround myself by happy-go-lucky people that like think the
Mm-hmm,
same
mm-hmm.
way, that life is a game and like you're here to have fun and like not take these things. Work hard, but don't take these things seriously.
So when you had 11,000 employees, you had a lot of external validation, but you realized you weren't happy anymore. I just want to ask you a follow-up question on that. Because
Yeah.
so that when you first got the feeling that you weren't happy, how did you then turn that into the next plan? And how much a big part of that was the email that you wrote to yourself, or were there other was there other stuff that you did at that time?
So it's pre my meditation spiritual awakening phase. So my spiritual awakening, I could say started happening on May 30th, 2015. That was a sensation. When you have the sensation that you're bored, you're not happy, etc., you think about it
Mm-hmm.
and you talk to people about it, etc. The problem with thinking about it is it's a bit loosey goosey. What I like about the process of writing is it structures your thoughts. It forces you to really, when you put pen and paper, okay, what is it really that I'm comfortable with, uncomfortable with? What are the pros? What are the cons? And so I was pre-writing, I was already noodling on it. And then the writing was like the clarification of that process. And so, yes, I'm sure it had been on my mind for a few months. And then like taking the time to like put it down, structured my thoughts in a much more rigorous way, which became the basis for articulation of what I should do next, which led me to the conclusion that I should leave.
It's so interesting that you're ENTJ as well. So I'm ENTJ. My husband's INTJ. I feel like I spend my whole life around just NTJs. I actually almost thought about starting a podcast just called like NTJ Radio or
Yeah.
something, because it feels like this very specific, beautiful combination. And
And by the way, I'm
we
at the
just think we're
border
the
between E and
best.
I, right? Like I love being on
Yeah, yeah,
stage and
yeah,
public
yeah.
speaking, but I'm very happy alone reading a book, right? Like yeah, if you put me in a small talk social situation, I hate it. And it drains all my energy.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to
And
go to
then
Burning
I've got
Man, but not to go and meet people I don't know, like with a
okay.
girlfriend and we're like enjoying the place, right? Like
Yeah. But then the thing about that personality type, so the N, I get it. It's intuitive, it's visionary. I get that could be in tune with spirituality. But then the TJ is so interesting because it can almost feel at odds, because it's like we want to plan things and we want to put logic around things. So did you ever have a bit of a push and pull with that, like pre May 30th, 2015?
Well, first of all, I have not retaken a personality test, so perhaps it's changed. But
Okay.
yeah,
Because you
I
could be more
suspect probably
FJ
not. But yeah,
potentially.
yeah, maybe could be.
Yeah, that would be interesting, because I wonder, because the ENTJ type is the commander. So it's like
Yeah,
control everything, and we seek control and we cling to control. So then how
no, but
does
but I see it differently. I see you put things in motion, but you don't get attached to the outcome. You don't get attached to, you do the work and then then you see how it plays out and then you adjust accordingly. But you're like, yeah, I've never been a control freak from that perspective, even before.
yeah. And then you mentioned about the whole kind of the you can do it attitude, where some people have an internal monologue to say, no, you can't do it, it'll never work out. And you haven't ever had that. And I guess there's some school of thought to say that your internal monologue comes from your parents and them kind of telling you what you can and can't do when you're older. Where did yours come from?
Yeah, I don't know. I Perhaps it was actually the opposite. It's like observing my parents. So I think being very incompetent parents and like, these guys are idiots. I'm going to do it myself. Uh,
Did you tell them?
oh yeah, no. To talk to my when I was 10, I was insufferable. I would tell my parents that you realize you've got at the dinner table, and you should be grateful that you have my intellect and presence at the dinner table. I was insufferable as a kid. Sheldon Cooper. Uh, oh yeah, no, I told my parents they were. I don't know. I did not understand where my intellect came from, but it clearly didn't come from. So no,
So then,
I was an insufferable, arrogant kid. Now, but the funny thing is, I was both the best kid you can have, like skip all the grades, straight A plus, never got in trouble, never drank, never went out, like literally the best you can have in every respect. But also, the one I was also very not very lovey dovey, and so I was very cold and judgmental. So
and do
so
you
yeah,
laugh about it with them now?
oh yeah, absolutely. Oh no, my mother makes fun of me, and oh yeah, we definitely laugh about it now. But yes, I was very very different. Yeah, yeah.
How's Angel doing?
She has an eye infection, so she needs to have a cone, and they need to put drops in her eyes morning and evening. But she's doing great.
Oh.
So yeah,
So,
now we laugh about it. Now we have an amazing relationship. Because you know what? They're not as smart, and it's okay. They're not as
okay.
ambitious, and it's okay. They are their own people. They have their own pros and cons and benefits, and the things they love, and whatever. Like there's no, so maybe like I used to be judgmental, and now I'm not judgmental. I think that's the difference. Now I'm accepting of people the way they are. Like I wanted to
Mhm.
change people or judge people by a certain framework of value judgment, and I actually see it very differently now. Now I see like everyone is invaluable the way they are. In fact, thank you for being you, because it allows me to be me. Like I could not
Mm.
have the life I have today, which I love. I literally think I'm living the best life that's ever been lived, if it wasn't for all the other people out there that are living their lives and allowing me to live the life that I'm leading. And so
Yeah.
I think that's the
Yeah.
real difference, is like judgment has completely disappeared. Like now
Yeah.
I accept people the way they are. I don't think there's any wrong necessarily way of living your life. You do what's right for you, and that's okay. And perhaps you're doing things perhaps you're doing things that are not necessarily right for you, but maybe that's the experience and process that you need to be going through and to learn that lesson. And it's not for, people can give you advice, but it's up to you to decide whether you pick it or you follow it or not. And so it's your journey, and you should not be judgmental of other people's journeys. You don't know what they're going through. And so that's probably the single biggest difference between back then and now.
Yeah. So a funny thing just happened. Just as you said the word advice, that's when I was writing the word advice, because I wanted to ask you a question about that. So what do you do if there's the full acceptance of other people, and been a really big change? What do you do if someone specifically asks you for advice? How do you handle it?
I know I would tell them, like, because at the end of the day, I would tell them, look, do exactly what I expect, what I want to hear myself, which is, if I were you, this is what I would do. If I were me and in the same situation, this is what I would do. And this is the process I would follow. Now it's up to you to decide whether what I'm saying resonates with you, and whether you want to do it or not, and go through the process. And then they decide. So I know I still give them advice, especially if they ask for it, but I'm not attached to the outcome. It is their choice to take it or not take it, and to implement it or not implement it. And I'm not, so for instance, part of the way I give to charity is when is occasionally when I have like big exits, I just give money to my friends. But because many of them have made life choices that I think are good for humanity, but not good for them. Like the derm clinic, someone who ran a derm clinic decided to go do cancer research, dividing his salary by 5. Well, probably better for the world than just doing cancer research, but not great for her. So people like that, I give them occasionally $100,000, $200,000. But here's what I do. First of all, it's not recurring. And they can do whatever they want with it. There is no strings attached.
Yeah.
You can go and blow it in Vegas. You could go on vacation. You could put the down payment of your house. It doesn't matter. Give willingly and freely with no expectations. Do it because it's the right thing to do. Do it because you love them. Do it. And that's true of everything, of the advice I give, etc. Like don't have expectations on the outside. You do the things because they're the right thing to do.
Is there anything that I should have asked you? Is there anything that you really wanted to talk about, or anything that you think is really important that we didn't cover?
What I think people are not good at, actually, so it's the blog post from 3 weeks ago or something like that, is being yourself. Like too many people have a combination of FOMO and doing things because they think they should, because they think someone like them should want to do these things, or their parents would want it, or society or whatever, but most importantly themselves, and versus like doing what they really want to be doing and being the truth authentic selves, and worrying too much about what other people think of them. That's probably the biggest mistake I think younger people do, worrying about what other people think of them when no one really thinks of them and cares, and doing things because they think they should versus what they really want to be doing. And don't do things for the resume, the pedigree, I should be doing these things. Do things because you really want to. And when you do, like, my observation is very good things happen in life.
So when you were pre-27, had not had a date, were just geeking out on stuff, thinking of like following your passion, thinking everyone else was an idiot. Did you have any sense then of any obligations or worrying what people thought at all? Have you always had the whole, I'm just not going to think about this?
No, they didn't care. No, because I judge them for being not smart enough. So they could judge me for being a virgin at 27, but I could judge them for being unworthy. So no, never cared. Never cared.
Have you you might have written about this already, but have you got like a kind of advice to my former self that you've written or that you've thought about, or what is the one piece of advice?
The funny thing is, like, so I thought about this. Do I have any regrets? And the answer is probably no, because I love where my life is today, and I wouldn't change anything. Right? Like, if I changed anything, probably wouldn't be where I am today. Including the failure, the very public failure at like 25, 26, when the company went bankrupt, including, being a virgin until 27, including being an arrogant, condescending kid younger, like all these things, if you quote unquote fix them, I worry that the outcome is actually probably a lot worse, different. Definitely it's different, but I can make many scenarios for why it would be worse of where I am today. And literally, I think now I'm like leading the best life that has ever been lived. So.
And when you say the public failure, can you give me a couple of like snapshot of how public that failure was?
Well, I mean, you need to remember, I was on the 8:00 news every night and the cover of every magazine. So when the company goes bankrupt and I have a falling out with like the richest guy in the world at the time, it was like very high. And I signed an NDA about, all to not disparage and talk about all the bullshit he had done. It was very, very public, and I couldn't even talk about it. So not only was like my image being destroyed, I could even defend myself.
What did you do when those headlines were going on? What did you do?
Funnily enough, I didn't particularly care. I'm like, you know what? I know I'm amazing. People are entitled to their opinions. I'm going to just go build my next startup, even though it's going to
Okay.
be small and no money. Yeah. Funnily enough, like, yeah, didn't care.
I wonder if you just had this sense. I mean, if time doesn't exist, if everything's just happening in one infinite present moment, then maybe you just knew at that time that it would be like just a blip. It would be a story that you told in the future and it wouldn't be a really big thing.
Nah, I definitely did not know that. Definitely did not know that. At that time, I thought I'd left the biggest single. I thought I would have been at the right time, the right place, with the right skills, and I'd let this opportunity slip through my fingers and my grasp. Yeah,
Mm.
like same thing. Every time I've fallen in love and like it didn't work out for some reason, I felt like, yeah, it was like and this happened recently, so it feels like it was like the soul crushing end all be all. But it's interesting now when these things happen. I do think there may be something to the infinite present, where there's just one infinite present, because on the second date with the girl, I sent her a voice note when she left. This is amazing. La, 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 I love you. And I'm like, what the fuck? I told her I love you on the second date. So I immediately deleted the voice note and did not tell her that for like whatever, the next 5 months, because I was embarrassed. But like somehow I knew this was going to be one of the big loves of my life. And
Yeah.
the last few months until the more recent breakup, I felt like dread. So I kind of, I guess, I knew something bad was going to happen, even though I felt like I'd never been as in love and everything was like the more perfect it had ever been in my entire life. And somehow I felt this dread.
Mm.
And so I think you have like these premonition or precognition of these things to happen, because they're bound to happen. Um, and it's funny because only this year I've been really writing on these topics of like spirituality. In fact, I wrote, but I didn't publish because it would beg the question: why are you writing about love? Why are you writing about falling in love? Why are you writing like and who we should fall in love with? But funnily enough, not Robert Lang, Dan Brown, the author of Da Vinci Code, just released a new book, The Secrets of Secrets. Believe it or not, it's about consciousness and like non-dual existence. It's really resonating. So actually I'm reading that right now. It's
Okay.
like, huh, he actually wrote a good book for once. for,
Okay. Yeah.
but it's funny that these topics are definitely topical, but like
Yeah.
non-dual states of living, I've definitely been on my mind in the last, whatever, 6 months, 9 months.
Have you read The Game of Life and How to Play It?
No, but I suspect I could have written that book.
Yeah. It's an old book. 1941 was the second edition. I think it's
Okay.
even from before that. It might be from the 1920s. Florence Scovel Shinn, but
Okay.
it's cool. It's so it's so old. And yeah, it's just all those classic things that it feels like
Okay. I just
the
ordered
world
it.
is. Yeah, okay. I like it a lot. I have so much highlighted from that book. Which other ones? Are there any other ones that you would recommend people read? Imagine if you take the kind of the NTJ, very logical, very skeptical person, and you said, oh, if you just read one book that will change your life, which one would you say?
Honestly, read my blog post on the meaning of life, because the
Okay.
reason, I mean, it is almost a book, to be clear. It's not a, it's a 1 hour long read. Uh, and the reason I think to someone like a normal person, it is worth reading about, because the way it works is I go for first principles. This is what I experience as a rational, intellectual, scientific minded individual. And this is then how I explain that it happened, what my read of this is. And so it
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
works well with like skeptical intellects, as an argument for like why the world is the way it is, versus a lot of the spiritual mumbo jumbo that doesn't resonate with normal people.
Yeah.
Wait, it's nice to say, oh, but like the universe is the bomb and like Maya is the illusion, etc. Like it doesn't speak to people, versus what
Mm.
I experience is like actual first person real experience in the um and then I go from first principles. This is my experience, and then this is this is my reading of it and how I'm generalizing it to the world.
Have you turned your blog post into a book?
That one maybe, but the blog itself, it's hard. I thought about it for a long time. First, I wanted to wait until my kids or older, and I can say I'm also a successful parent in addition to having a successful life. And the problem is my observation on books, the nonfiction books that are very popular have one central idea that is basically repeated 50 times in the same book. And when your blog, and by the way, my blog arguably should be a lot more successful than it is. And so my blog would be infinitely more successful if it had one central theme. If it was either all spirituality or all marketplaces or all how to fundraise for subs. The fact that I'm writing about love and decision making and non-dual existence, etc., makes it hard, I think, to find an audience because people that are very intellectual and curious are far and few between. Most people are like more narrow-minded, and so the broadness of the topics I cover make it hard, I think, to have a book that is like a central unified theme.
But aren't you the central unified theme? Because
Biography.
Kind of, yeah. Well, because then even if 100 of your closest friends read it at first, but they all love it, and then they tell more people, then I don't think you need a theme. I think you are the theme.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, it could be the game of life, right? Like the book I wanted to write is called Life. Yeah, how to lead the best life possible. That's ever been lived.
Nice.
So I've been thinking about it, but I was thinking about waiting until I've also been proven to be a successful parent.
Well, how do you define that?
Happy, well-adjusted kids, like that are thriving in the world and being their authentic selves, and not depressed, not addicted to shit, not whatever. Yeah.
And how old do they need to be?
Yeah.
How old do they need to be to have proven that?
25, I don't know, 30. I think maybe reasonably early, but like, right now they're 4, 2, and -9 months. So it's hard to tell. I'm implanting the embryo in the surrogate next week. So
okay, cool.
For the third one. Yeah, because my son asked me, he said he wanted a brother. When he was 3, so a year ago. My son said he wanted a brother. And now this is also the son who like put his penis in a fucking C-bob and cut it off. I mean, not permanently. And they, kids do a lot of stupid stuff. But I literally thought it was the universe talking to me through him. And so I had a conversation with him. It's like, okay, do you understand that a brother, doesn't come out fully formed, and they need the milkies, and they're small, and they need to learn to talk and walk, etc. He's like, yeah, but eventually he's going to be great. I want a brother. And so I'm like, okay, this is the universe telling me I need to make a brother for him. So I'm going to make a brother. And so then it took me, I have frozen embryos, but it is from the egg donor. I got an egg donor like when I decided to have kids after I decided to have kids after ayahuasca ceremony. So speaking of like reading the tea leaves, like being told, following what you're told in different circumstances. In my ayahuasca ceremony, everyone around me was having the horrible time, throwing up and like crying and screaming. The message that I got is like, you're living your best life. You're living your life's purpose. So my ayahuasca journey was very different than everyone else. Like for me, it was like, ta-da, like everything's amazing. It's like singing and dancing and love and joy. Like I drank 4 cups. And everyone around me is like, blah, blah. And I'm like, this is the best thing ever. Like everyone's telling me, I'm being told how amazing I am. Like I could do that all day. But my grandmother told me, you've been resistant to have kids. And the reason you're resistant to have kids is you think you're leading the perfect life, and you are, but you think it'll impede your quality of life. You think because and this is based on observational data, your friends who have kids disappear from your life when they're tired, and when you see them, they're always complaining of their kids, they no longer have fun, etc. And my grandmother, who had passed for more than 20 years at that point, to be clear, told me, you know what, you're wrong. You lead a non-traditional life. You can be a non-traditional parent. What people do incorrectly in New York is they become helicopter parents, and they substitute their lives for the lives of their kids. They are no longer the couple. They're no longer the individual. They become the parents. Don't do that. Keep living your life and take your kids with you. They're going to have fun. So I've taken my 4-year-old now, heli skiing, kite surfing, rock climbing, I just put him in a pack and we go. Like camping, I mean, you name it. So she was right on the cost being lower, not financial, but like time cost being, like quality of life cost being lower than you expected. And then she said the benefits are greater than you think. Now, of course, every parent tells you, oh, it's the best thing ever, whatever. But like, that's bullshit. What matters is like, why do I think specifically for you is going to be great? You, Fabrice, like teaching. You like teaching at Harvard, at Stanford, whatever. Like, you're going to love teaching someone you recognize yourself in. And B, you're a big kid. You love playing. I play video games. I race remote control cars and planes, etc. This will give you an even bigger excuse to indulge in like building Legos and building trains, and like you're going to be the biggest kid ever, and you're going to love it. And so after I left the ceremony, in fact, in the ceremony, I got visited by a white German Shepherd that said, "Hey, you're an epic being of light, shining beacon of light in a universe of darkness. You need an epic white dog, and you think Ghost from Game of Thrones is this fictional character, but actually it's based on an actual dog, and that dog is a white German Shepherd. Come and find me." Same the ceremony. And so I left the ceremony. Okay, I'm leading my best life, but kids and white German Shepherd and a boy and a girl, because different relationship, first the boy, then the girl. And also that's also in that ceremony that the message was like, if you keep trying, it's not working, like move on. So that lesson also came in that ceremony. That was in 2018.
Okay.
And so that's when I left the Dominican Republic after that ceremony. And so that's when it became clear, okay, follow the signs the universe is telling you. So it's not been a long time. It's been 8 years, 7 years since I've become more adept at reading the signs of the universe versus forcing things.
Yeah. Are you into astrology?
Not really, not as much. I mean, yeah, more. Could there be something to it? Maybe. But yeah, more. Yeah, and I'm more into let's drop acid and tune in and like figure things out or whatever. Like a couple times a year, I like dropping acid, but like light doses. The deep ceremonies only, as I said, 3 times: once LSD, one psilocybin, one ayahuasca.
So, yeah, that's interesting. So then, do you ultimately believe that things are preordained?
I think maybe there's determinism at the universal level, but I do think we have individual local free will.
Yeah.
And I don't think we just have the illusion of free will. I really think we have actual local free will, though it doesn't necessarily matter at a galactic scale. So we have predispositions, and it's up to us to decide if we want to follow them or not. So no, we have free. The universe looks deterministic, but I still think we have individual free will, and regardless, I think it doesn't matter to what the outcome of the universe is anyway.
I kind of think about it like that. It's like if everyone gets this like consciousness and they can kind of do what they want with it, it's almost like up to you to play the game at different levels, maybe. And you could play it at the highest level and achieve everything that you could potentially be capable of with all of your given ace cards. Or you could take that exact same ingredients list and you could do something else with it that just sort of wastes them, but you might not feel like you wasted them because you've just got a different level of ambition or something.
Yeah, I mean it's the Alan Watts, the dream of life, right? Like if every night you could dream a life of 80 years, in the first few nights you would dream and you could control it completely if you wanted to. You would dream a life of like infinite pleasure. But after a few nights or weeks or month where you fulfilled all your fantasies, you'd actually say, hey, maybe I want to do something where I don't control the outcome, and like, let's see what happens. And you'd have a few of these and you'd be like, oh my God, like that was scary and crazy and exciting, but different. And as the nights would go on, you would dream further and further things of what you would want, including suffering, war, disease, etc., to experience, because the point of this is to experience, to the point that you get to the point where you're living exactly the life that you're leading today. And I really believe that to be true. We are all, my perspective is like, we are reality experiencing itself. We are the universe. We are the consciousness of the universe experiencing itself. We are all God, basically. But we've forgotten our divinity because we're ultimately one. And the reason we intentionally forget our divinity is in order to be able to pretend that to have all these experiences that matter, even though we actually are immortal, omnipotent, and omniscient. But if you're an immortal, omnipotent, omniscient deity, you're bored. And this simulation matrix is a means of having novel experiences for an otherwise moored, immortal, omnipotent deity. And that's why, because we are all godly in a way, this is why manifesting works. This is why, because we do have these superpowers, we've just forgotten that we have them. And it's not just me. We are all gods. You are a god. Like that's the difference. I think the Christians get wrong. They think there's a God, which is Jesus Christ, and I think he is one. But we're all gods. So you are a god. I am a god, etc. We're all there's a universal consciousness, and we filter a subset of it to get to the individual that you are. So yeah, Jodie or Fabrice, but it's a infinite speciation of the same universal consciousness. At the end of the day, we're all one. And you can see it when frankly, I can see it when I'm on acid. Like I look at the atoms of the table and I see it, moving because it's mostly space between them. Like, so all these things make so much sense to me.
Yeah, we missed the signs. Do you have a phone? Do you use your phone much?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I'm on permanent do not disturb. So no rings, no vibrations, right? Like you want to be in the present. So imagine like while we're having this conversation, notifications were showing up and like vibrations, even a vibration will take your attention away from the present. You want to be in the present moment.
Yeah.
Now, I think a phone is useful to communicate? Absolutely. I use WhatsApp all the time, like to chit chat with friends, with my family. I like watching funny YouTube videos, but I'm not doom scrolling on social media. I'm more of a content creator than a content consumer. So I'm writing blog posts, I'm posting on Instagram, I'm posting on Facebook, but I'm posting on YouTube. But I'm much more so than like, I don't look on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook very much. I don't follow any news. I think news is
same. Yeah.
I think news and politics is it's a trap. It's like it's an outraged fabrication machine to capture your attention, but it's like actually irrelevant.
That was Fabrice Grinda, multi-millionaire angel investor and entrepreneur who's proven that treating life as a game works. You can follow him online to see what he does next. What is the one thing from this interview you're going to try? Drop it in the comments and subscribe to my channel for new videos just like this, and I'll see you in the next one.